A live stream spirals into chaos as Jimin mocks Jungkook's mother. What follows is a shocking, emotional explosion no one was prepared for. "You want to bring my mother into this, Jimin?" Jungkook's voice sliced through the air like a snapped guitar string, the mic trembling beneath his clenched fist. The room froze. The live stream wasn't even 10 minutes in. Thousands of armies watched as the atmosphere on screen turned icy. A slight smirk curved on Jimin's lips, a smirk that, just moments ago, had been charming during their playful banter. But something shifted, violently and irreversibly. The chat exploded. What did he just say? Did Jimin just mock Jungkook's mom? The studio lights above them flickered slightly, unnoticed, as the tension built like storm clouds rolling over a silent horizon. Taehyung, seated between them, tried to laugh it off, tried to diffuse whatever had just ignited, but even he could feel it. Something had crossed a line that should have never been approached. Jungkook wasn't smiling anymore. The golden boy of BTS, usually calm, composed, charming, now radiated a silent rage that rippled through the air like heat from a broken furnace. His pupils dilated, his jaw was tight. Even the way he sat changed, leaning forward, elbows on the table, shoulders stiff, breath shallow. "Say that again," Jungkook said, quieter this time. "I dare you." Jimin blinked, surprised by the sharp edge in Jungkook's voice. He hadn't meant "I tat least," not the way Jungkook had taken it, but the damage was done. Words, once spoken, could never be unsaid, especially not when they involved her. "I didn't mean it like," Jimin began, but Jungkook slammed his hand down on the table, cutting him off. The echo of the impact vibrated through the microphones, causing an awkward lag in the live stream. "You think I'm gonna let you mock the woman who held me through the nights I couldn't sleep? Who cooked with bleeding hands just so I'd have something warm after training? You know exactly what you were implying." Jungkook's voice was sharp, guttural, emotional. He stood up. The camera adjusted automatically, zooming slightly as it tried to follow him, creating an eerie closeness, intimate and invasive. Jimin's expression shifted from playful to defensive, then guilt, then fear. Because this wasn't a moment between bandmates anymore. This was personal, and everyone watching knew it. Behind the camera glass, staff exchanged panicked looks. No one had prepared for this. Not the production crew, not their manager, not even Taehyung, who looked like he wanted to disappear into his oversized hoodie. "You don't talk about her. Not in that tone, not ever," Jungkook said, eyes locked on Jimin with a precision that felt like fire. Then he turned his back, walked off set, left his mic behind, still hot, still live, still capturing the sharp intake of his breath before the slam of a backstage door rang through the feed like the final beat of a funeral drum. And then silence. Just Jimin, stunned and still, blinking beneath the blinding studio lights as the live stream dipped to black with a buffering wheel spinning like a ticking time bomb. The fallout was immediate. Clips from the live stream were already circulating within minutes. Hashtags surged across platforms. Jungkook live meltdown. Jimin crossed the line. Protect Jungkook mom. Armies were divided, some defending Jimin, saying it was a misunderstood joke. Others were furious. They knew about Jungkook's past, about his mother's quiet sacrifices, about how she'd once collapsed from exhaustion during his trainee years, something Jungkook had only spoken about once, his voice shaking in a private interview never meant to be public. But somehow it had leaked, and now it had surfaced. In Jimin's half-mumbled remark, a joke that wasn't a joke. Jungkook disappeared from social media the next day. No Instagram updates, no Weverse replies, no fan cafe posts. Just silence? And in that silence, rumors grew like wild vines. Some claimed he flew to Busan to be with his mother. Some said he was seen crying in the company garage at 3 a.m. alone in his car. Some whispered he confronted the CEO, demanding to know why the live stream wasn't cut earlier, why no one stopped it. Hybe issued a vague statement citing creative differences and rest for personal well-being, but no one believed it. Meanwhile, Jimin returned to the dorm and locked himself in his room. No one saw him for 3 days. Taehyung later said he could hear music blaring through the door all night long, gold tracks, demo versions of songs they'd written together, some of which never made it past their journals. In a rare moment of candor, Taehyung told a close friend off the record, he's not okay, not because people are mad at him, but because Jungkook is mad at him, and that broke him. Because for all their ups and downs, Jimin always believed there was one person who would forgive him even when the world turned their back. One person who understood him deeper than the image, the fame, the charm. But what if even that bridge was burned? What if this time the damage was permanent? Jungkook finally emerged 5 days later. Paparazzi photos captured him leaving his mother's small cafe in Busan, wearing a plain hoodie, hair damp from the rain, eyes red. Not from crying, at least not recently, but from exhaustion. A fan who saw him said he looked different, not cold, not angry, just distant, detached. He walked past the cameras, didn't bow, didn't smile, didn't look back. Inside the cafe, his mother had already closed for the day. A handwritten note on the door read, "Family emergency. Thank you for understanding." Inside, Jungkook sat in silence, staring at the steam curling from a barely touched cup of tea. The room smelled of chamomile and sea salt. Rain tapped lightly against the window. A cat meowed from the kitchen. His mother sat across from him, knitting. "I don't need you to defend me," she said softly, "but I need you to stay whole." He didn't answer, just stared down at the steam and the reflection of his own fractured face in the tea's surface. Back in Seoul, Jimin sat alone at the studio. He tried recording. Nothing came out right. His voice cracked. His fingers trembled. He played back the clip of the live stream, again torturing himself, trying to hear it the way Jungkook heard it, hoping somehow that maybe it hadn't sounded that cruel. But it had. He knew it. He replayed Jungkook's face the exact moment his expression shattered like glass under pressure. A part of him wanted to call, to apologize, but another part whispered, he doesn't want to hear from you. And maybe he didn't deserve to be heard. The door behind him opened slowly. Taehyung peeked in, holding a takeout bag. "You need to eat," he said simply. Jimin didn't move. He just stared at the mic in front of him. Still live, still on, still recording. But this time, nothing came out. The doors to the Hype studio slammed open with a force that rattled the hallway glass. Every intern, coordinator, and staff member within earshot stopped what they were doing, frozen in the middle of silent gulps and unfinished coffee. Jungkook didn't just walk in, he arrived like a storm, refusing to be forecasted. He wasn't wearing anything extravagant, just black joggers, a gray hoodie, and his face half shielded by the shadow of his capit. The tension radiating from his frame was enough to silence an entire floor. Taehyung was the first to notice. He stood from the lounge, an unfinished latte in hand, and took 2 cautious steps forward. "Jungkook," he said carefully, "you're back." Jungkook didn't reply. He just looked straight ahead, lips tightly drawn, eyes fixed like they were targeting something deeper than physical presence. The studio lights overhead reflected in his pupils, but there was no warmth in them, just ice and fire, simultaneously. Without saying a word, Jungkook turned the corner and headed towards Studio B, the same studio where the live stream had burned everything to the ground. Inside, Jimin sat with headphones on, eyes closed, recording vocals that sounded more like confessions than lyrics. The booth was dimly lit, and the only thing brighter than the neon blue LEDs on the console was the redness circling under his eyes. He didn't hear the door open, but he felt it, like gravity had shifted in the room. He looked up. Their eyes met. Everything stopped. There were no words for that kind of silence. Not even the subtle hum of the studio monitors could break it. It was a silence that screamed, that begged, that bled. And then, "You had no right," Jungkook said, his voice a low growl that was calm only because he'd burned through every ounce of rage in the past 5 days. Jimin pulled off his headphones slowly, as if time had slowed around them. "I know." "You don't know," Jungkook snapped. "You don't say her name like that. You don't smile when you say it. You don't mock her." "It wasn't," Jimin tried to interject. "Don't tell me it wasn't like that," Jungkook hissed, stepping forward. "I watched it, Jimin. I watched the replay like the rest of the world. I saw the look in your eyes. I know exactly what you meant." Jimin stood now, trembling slightly, not out of fear, but from the weight of shame and the burden of the words he had said without thought. "I was angry, Jungkook. You kept cutting me off. You kept acting like you were better. So you dragged my mother into it?" Jungkook's voice cracked, eyes burning now. "You couldn't just win the argument like a man. You had to go there?" "You think I meant to?" Jimin shot back, voice rising. "You think I sat there and planned to hurt you? You think I wanted to break us apart? I was hurting too. You humiliate me in front of fans. You make digs at me all the time, but the moment I say something, suddenly I'm the villain? This isn't about jokes, Jimin. This isn't about petty on-camera arguments. This is about respect. Something you forgot the moment you thought your pride was more important than my blood. Jimin clenched his jaw. He wanted to yell, to scream, but he knew anything louder than truth would only make it worse. I've never once disrespected your mom, he said, slower now, almost trembling. She always treated me like her own, and I loved her for that. Then why? Jungkook's voice cracked again, this time softer. Why would you say it like that? Jimin swallowed. For a second, he looked smaller, more human, more broken. Because I was jealous, he whispered. The air shifted. Jungkook blinked. What? I was jealous, Jimin repeated, voice trembling now. Of how you talk about her, of how you carry her with you. I never had that. You talk about your mom like she's the only anchor you've ever had. I hated you for it, just for a second. And in that second, I said something I'll regret for the rest of my life. Jungkook's fist loosened. Jimin wasn't crying, but the pain in his voice was wetter than tears. Roar, more exposed. I don't want your forgiveness, Jimin added. I don't even deserve it. I just want you to know that I hate myself more than anyone online ever could. There was a pause, not just in words, but in the world itself. Jungkook took one deep breath, and then another. I spent 5 days asking myself how someone I love like a brother could say something so cruel, Jungkook said, almost to himself. I kept replaying it, hoping it sounded different the next time. I'm sorry, Jimin whispered. I'm sorry I became that person. Jungkook looked at him for a long time. Then he stepped back. I'm not ready to accept your apology, he said softly, but I'll stay. I'm not leaving this group, and I won't let one moment define everything we've built. Jimin nodded. His voice cracked for the first time. I just want to fix what I broke. Jungkook looked away. Some things don't get fixed, Jimin, he murmured. They just become part of the story. That night, ARMYs noticed something unusual. A post appeared on the official BTS Twitter account. A blurry photo of a quiet studio. 2 mics, 2 chairs, captioned only with, recording again, 1 step at a time. It didn't go unnoticed. Speculation ignited like fire to gasoline. Everyone wanted to know, was it Jungkook and Jimin? Were they speaking again? Was the group still intact? No answers came. Until a week later. The group appeared together at a fan event. Cameras flashed like 1,000 tiny suns. Every member smiled, waved, laughed, but every eye was on Jungkook and Jimin. Would they stand apart? Would they speak? Then it happened. Jungkook said something under his breath during an interview. Jimin laughed. Not fake, not forced. Just a brief, broken, beautiful laugh that cut through the tension like sunlight through cracked glass. Taehyung smiled when he saw it. A real smile. And for a moment, the world believed in healing again. Backstage, the air was heavy with incense and sweat. Jungkook sat on the couch, arms folded, mind distant. Jimin stood across the room, holding a paper cup of water he hadn't taken a sip from in over 20 minutes. I don't want people to think we're pretending, Jimin finally said. We're not, Jungkook answered. But we're not okay. No, but we're trying. Jimin finally took a sip. It still hurts, he admitted. It will, Jungkook replied. And that's the price of truth. But I'd rather bleed honestly than smile behind a lie. Jimin looked at him with eyes filled with more regret than apology. I'll earn it back, he whispered. Your trust, your brotherhood. Jungkook stood. He walked toward Jimin, slowly, intentionally. Then he placed his hand on Jimin's shoulder. I'll let you try. And for both of them, that was more than enough for now. In that room, under artificial lights and layers of unspoken sorrow, forgiveness didn't fall like rain. It dripped, one breath at a time. Don't invite Jimin. Those were Jungkook's words, clear, flat, and final when Namjoon mentioned the upcoming private dinner organized by Hybe. It was supposed to be a quiet reconciliation evening, just the members, no staff. No scripts, no press, just them. Namjoon had paused. He didn't argue, just gave a small nod, the kind that said, I hear you, but I don't agree. Jungkook had walked away before anyone could respond. But the next evening, Jimin walked into the rooftop restaurant anyway. His steps were hesitant, but his chin was up. His eyes scanned the room until they locked with Jungkook's across the table. A tension thicker than concrete rippled through the air. Everyone else Taehyung, Hoseok, Namjoon, Yoongi, and Jin froze mid-conversation. Jungkook leaned back in his chair, slowly, arms crossing. "You weren't invited," he said, his voice lower than usual, like a growl hiding beneath velvet. "I know," Jimin replied, breast steady, "but I was told this dinner was for healing. You can't heal if you keep cutting pieces out of the wound." "You think showing up unannounced is how you fix things?" Jungkook's voice sharpened, more steel than flesh. "I think avoiding me forever is worse," Jimin shot back, pulling out a chair across from Jungkook. "So, I showed up." Taehyung looked at Namjoon, who sighed heavily and looked down at his plate. Jin sipped his wine and muttered something about how he should have brought popcorn instead. Yoongi, in typical fashion, stayed quiet, but his eyes didn't miss a beat. Jungkook tapped the edge of his glass rhythmically, his eyes boring into Jimin like he was searching for cracks to tear wider. "You're really gonna sit there?" Jungkook said slowly. "After everything, and act like you were the one wronged?" Jimin didn't flinch. "No, I'm sitting here because I need to say things I should have said a long time ago." Jungkook leaned in, voice dropping to a whisper that burned with clarity. "Then say it, because I swear to God, Jimin, if you dance around it again, I will walk, and this time I won't come back." The table was a graveyard of awkward silverware. "I was scared," Jimin said, louder than before. "Scared of being second, scared of being forgotten, scared of you becoming more loved than I could ever be." Jungkook blinked, stunned. "I know it's pathetic," Jimin continued, "but I hated the way your name trended more than mine. I hated the way fans cried harder when you sang. I hated the way your mother looked at you with so much pride, like she knew you were meant for something greater. I started to hate everything about you, even when you were kind, even when you tried to help me, especially then." His voice cracked. "And the worst part is I didn't even realize I was jealous until it all came out that night. I thought I was joking. I thought I was being witty, but I was bleeding, Jungkook. Bleeding and blaming you for every wound I never addressed." Jungkook stared at him like he didn't recognize the person sitting in front of him. "Do you have any idea what it felt like?" he said, quieter now, "watching my mom read the headlines? Seeing her cry not because she was hurt, but because I was?" Jimin nodded. His hands were trembling under the table. "I sent her flowers," he said. "I wrote her a letter. I didn't sign it. I knew it wouldn't be enough." Jungkook's fingers curled into fists. "It's not." "I know," Jimin whispered. "But I'm not here to erase the past. I'm here to carry it. With you, if you'll let me." Taehyung broke the silence. "You two need to stop dancing around the fire like it's not already burning the whole house down." Everyone turned to him. "You're both hurting," he said, louder now, more serious than any of them had heard him in months. "But we're all hurting too, because this isn't just between you two. It's us. All of us. We're a family, and when two people stop talking, the whole house echoes." Yoongi finally spoke, his voice dry but sharp. "You want forgiveness? Earn it. You want healing? Start acting like it. Stop making it a damn performance." Jungkook sat back in his chair, his shoulders finally slumping from the weight of it all. "You want to come back into my life, Jimin?" he said, eyes steady. "Fine, but don't expect the door to be wide open. You'll have to knock, every time." Jimin nodded, eyes shining but unblinking. "Then I'll knock, every day, if I have to." A moment passed, then another. And then Jin cleared his throat dramatically. "Well," he said, "since we've just witnessed a drama that rivals any K-drama I've seen, maybe we can eat now?" Laughter broke like a sudden rainstorm, awkward, cracked but honest. Even Jungkook smiled, barely, and for a moment, it felt like something had clicked back into place. Not perfectly, but just enough to hold. Later that night, Jungkook stood alone on the balcony of the restaurant, staring out over Seoul's glowing skyline. The wind carried the distant sounds of the city below sirens, laughter, the hum of life that never stopped. Jimin joined him quietly. Neither spoke. They stood there for minutes. And then Jungkook said, without turning, "You should have told me you felt like that." "I didn't know how," Jimin replied. "You were always so sure. I didn't want you to see me weak." Jungkook chuckled bitterly. You think I'm not weak? You think I don't doubt everything I do? You hide it better. Doesn't mean I don't feel it. A silence settled between them again, not heavy this time, but soft, almost reflective. Did she hate me? Jimin finally asked, voice barely audible. Your mom? Jungkook turned to him. No, he said simply, but she was disappointed. That's worse. No, Jungkook said again, because disappointment can heal, hate doesn't. Jimin nodded. I'll apologize to her in person. She doesn't need your apology, Jungkook said. She needs to see you treat me like a brother again. Jimin turned to him. Then I will. They locked eyes. And in that look, something unspoken passed between them. Something ancient. Something sacred. Forgiveness wasn't a moment. It was a choice. Repeated. Relived. Rebuilt. Together, they walked back into the restaurant. The others were laughing now. Jokes flew across the table. Wine flowed. Music played from a speaker someone had connected to their phone. It was imperfect. It was messy. But it was real. And it was theirs. That night, Jungkook opened his phone and drafted a post he never thought he'd write. To everyone watching, judging, supporting, or just curious, we're not perfect. We fight, we break, but we also rebuild. Slowly. One moment at a time. Thanks for giving us space to be human. He didn't post it yet. But he saved it. Because maybe soon when the scars stopped aching so loudly, he would. And when he did, he knew Jimin would be beside him. Not as an enemy, but as the brother who came back. What did you really feel when Jimin mentioned your mother that day? The question cut through the air like a blade. No warning, no buffer, no preface. The interviewer looked calm, professional, rehearsed, but the tremor in her fingertips as she held the mic said she knew exactly what she had just done. She had lit the fuse. Now she was waiting to see if the explosion would go viral. Jungkook blinked. For a moment, the silence in the studio was so dense it felt like the air had collapsed. The lights above cast a harsh glow on his face, catching the fine tension along his jawline, the way his throat moved when he swallowed hard. Across from him, Jimin sat frozen, his back straight, his fingers tightening in his lap until the veins rose like ridges. They were mid-interview, promoting their new digital documentary, supposedly a healing journey, supposedly behind them. But the past was a wildfire and this question was the gasoline. Jungkook didn't smile, he didn't blink. He leaned forward slightly, eyes narrowing just a fraction. You want the honest answer, he said, voice steady but cold. The host gave a small nod. She tried to hold eye contact, but faltered halfway. Jungkook glanced sideways at Jimin for the briefest second, just long enough for their eyes to touch and recoil. I felt betrayed, he said flatly. I felt like someone ripped open the part of me I kept most sacred and dragged it into the spotlight just to win an argument. Jimin exhaled softly, almost a whisper of regret escaping his lips. Jungkook continued. I grew up watching my mother sacrifice everything for me. That comment didn't just offend, might desecrated everything she built. And the person who said it was the one I trusted most in the world. The camera slowly panned to Jimin. His eyes were glassy, but he nodded. I did that, he said quietly, and I'll spend years trying to undo it. But, Jungkook added, his voice thickening with something Sharp Ranger wrapped in restraint, what hurt more than the comment was the silence afterward, from everyone. That made even the host shift awkwardly in her chair. But Jungkook wasn't finished. No staff member cut the stream, no manager stepped in, no one came to me that night, not even after I walked off. They just let it happen, because the show had to go on, right? Jimin turned his head toward Jungkook slowly. I didn't come to you because I was ashamed, he said. Not because I didn't care. You should have come anyway, Jungkook snapped. I know, Jimin replied, louder now. And I wish I did. I thought about it 100 times, but I knew what I had said had gone too far. I couldn't even look in the mirror, let alone look you in the eye. Jungkook's hands clenched together on his knees. You stood on the other side of that door for 2 hours. I heard you. Jimin flinched. I didn't know. I waited, Jungkook said, voice now trembling. I kept thinking you'd knock. I kept hoping. But you just stood there. Jimin's voice cracked. I couldn't. The host, visibly uncomfortable now, offered a forced laugh. We didn't mean to stir too much tension, just asking what many fans have been curious about. You wanted drama? Jungkook said plainly, looking straight at her. Don't pretend you didn't. Jimin turned to the host now too, his voice firmer than before. This isn't a headline, this isn't a meme, this is something that broke both of us, and we're still picking up the pieces. The host tried to pivot. But you're healing now, right? Jungkook took a deep breath. Healing isn't linear. Some days we take steps forward, some days, he looked at Jimin again, we bleed all over again. The rest of the interview passed like a storm moving slowly over fragile ground. Every question felt like walking barefoot across broken glass. By the time the cameras stopped rolling, the room was thick with silence again. Backstage, Jungkook sat alone. A makeup artist hesitated before approaching him, unsure whether she should try to clean the smudged eyeliner or let him sit in peace. He waved her off gently and stared at the floor. Jimin appeared in the doorway. You were honest, he said. Jungkook didn't look up. Maybe too honest. No, Jimin replied. It's what they needed to hear, what I needed to hear. Jungkook stood and walked past him. He didn't stop. Jungkook, Jimin said, stepping forward. Jungkook paused, his back still turned. Don't try to fix it here, not with cameras still around. I'm not trying to fix it, Jimin said, softer now. I'm just trying to let you know I'm still trying. Jungkook didn't answer. He walked out of the room. Later that night, Jimin posted a story on his private fan platform. No photos, just text. Sometimes the hardest part of healing is not being forgiven, it's forgiving yourself. It went viral within minutes. Armies flooded comment sections with prayers, poems, debates, anger, support, and heartbreak. Fans reposted clips from the interview with captions like, "This wasn't just tension, it was a breakdown in real time," and Jungkook didn't just speak for himself, he spoke for every person who's ever been hurt by someone they trusted. Some accused the interviewer of exploiting them. Some accused HYBE of orchestrating it for publicity. Others said it was the most real thing BTS had done in years. No one could look away. 2 nights later, there was an emergency closed-door meeting at HYBE. Jin, as usual, arrived late, humming a trot song under his breath, but when he saw Jungkook already seated in the middle of the conference room with arms folded and jaw set, the mood sobered immediately. Taehyung walked in behind him, glancing at the empty chair next to Jungkook. "Where's Jimin?" he asked. Namjoon didn't answer. He just stared at the door. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Finally, the door opened. Jimin stepped in, not with confidence, but with clarity. "I know why you're all angry," he said, standing instead of sitting. "You think I keep opening wounds that we're trying to let close? And maybe I am, but I'm not doing it to gain sympathy. I'm doing it because if we lie about healing, we betray the fans who think pain just disappears. It doesn't. And I'd rather be hated for being messy and honest than loved for pretending we're fine." Yoongi nodded slowly. "Then stop hiding behind PR. Say what you really want to say." Jimin looked at Jungkook, and then he spoke the words he'd been holding for weeks. "You were right," he said. "You waited for me, and I stood outside your door like a coward. I was so afraid of facing what I'd done that I chose silence over courage, and I hate that. I hate what it made you feel. I hate how it made me feel." Jungkook stared at him, eyes unreadable. "But I also know this," Jimin continued. "The only reason it hurt so much was because you meant that much to me." Silence. Then Jungkook spoke, his voice low, hesitant. "Why now?" "Because I couldn't keep carrying it alone," Jimin said, "and because I miss my brother." Something broke then, quietly, without fanfare. Jungkook looked away, wiped his eye with the back of his hand. The room exhaled. No applause, no dramatic music, just a raw, vulnerable breath in a room that had carried too much silence for too long. After that night, they began meeting regularly. Just the two of them. No managers, no producers, no content to film. Sometimes they didn't speak for an hour. Just sat, listened to music, let the room breathe. One day, Jimin brought Jungkook a book of poetry. Inside the cover, he had written, "To the part of you I almost destroyed. I will never stop choosing to rebuild it." Jungkook didn't say anything when he read it, but he didn't let go of the book either. He took it with him everywhere. Weeks passed. The fandom watched as photos surfaced of them walking side by side again. No big announcement, just quiet, soft moments caught on blurry cameras. And one night, during a live V-Live stream, Jungkook said something that made millions of fans gasp. "Some scars don't fade," he said, smiling faintly at the chat. "But if you look closely, sometimes they form the shape of something beautiful." The comment section erupted. Jimin, watching from backstage, smiled quietly. Forgiveness wasn't an event. It was a language. And finally, they were learning to speak it again. Together, the studio lights were dimmed, the air inside thick with the scent of coffee, old vinyl, and tension that no one dared name. A single mic stood between two chairs already occupied by Jungkook, the other conspicuously empty. Cameras were set. The red live indicator glowed in the corner. The chat was already exploding. Fans had waited for this moment for weeks. The special episode of Inside the Minda Raw Unfiltered podcast hosted by Jungkook himself.